Hi, second grade mathematicians. I just wanted to quickly show you a short video on how to properly measure your objects using your 1-inch tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 1-inch tool, which was a quarter. And again, your 1-inch tool didn't have to be a quarter. It could be something else like a paper clip. It could be an eraser. It could have been anything else, but my tool is a quarter, so I'm going to demonstrate how to properly measure an object using a quarter. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adjust my screen so that way you can see my object and you can see my measuring tool. So my object right here is actually going to be my cell phone, and so I'm going to use my 1-inch tool, which is the quarter, to measure my cell phone. So one option that you can do if you have multiple 1-inch tools, then you can use all of them. So for example, I have many quarters. I don't just have one quarter, I have several quarters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use as many quarters as I can until I get from one end of my phone to the other end. So I'm just going to start by doing that. So remember, I'm going to measure my object and I'm going to start by putting my tool at the very edge of my object, and then I'm just going to add more quarters next to it, kind of like what we did in yesterday's lesson with the tiles, right? Making sure that our tiles are touching each other, there's no spaces in between them, and then we're going from one end of the object all the way to the other end. Okay, so right about now is where I'm going to stop, because I can see that the edge of my object has measuring tools and quarters kind of going to the very end. So now what I can just do is I can just count how many quarters I use. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I remember that each quarter is about 1 inch long. So I can say that my phone is 6 inches long because I used 6 1-inch tools. Now, if you don't have, so let's say you have only one paper clip, or you only have one quarter, or only one eraser, or you only have one of your 1-inch tool. That's okay. There's another way that you can measure your object. And what you're going to need is you're actually also going to need a piece of paper and something to write with, either a pen or a pencil. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your object on the piece of paper. You are going to take your 1-inch tool, and you're going to again put it at the very edge of your object. And then what you can do is you can hold your 1-inch tool, and you can just use your writing utensil to draw a little line like this. Okay? Then what you do is you move your tool and make sure that that edge is touching the line, and then you make another line. And you just keep doing it until you get to the very end of your object. They don't have to be straight lines, they don't have to be perfect, because I will show you why in a second. So I'm just going to keep moving my tool, making sure that it's always lined up with the line that I drew before. And then I'm just going to be adding new lines. Okay, so now that I've made my lines, you can probably see them. So now all I have to do is just count how many lines I drew. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's another way that you can measure your objects. So if you only have one 1-inch tool, then that's one way you can do it. But if you have multiple 1-inch tools that are the same object, then you can use those to measure your object as well. So either way, I knew that my phone was 6 inches long. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that just so you can kind of see how to properly measure the objects that you are going to be measuring today. So I'm going to come back to you for a second. So make sure that you find 5 objects in your house today that you can measure using your 1-inch tool. And again, you can have just one of them, or you can have a bunch of them like I did with my quarters. Either way, you can still measure your object and it'll still come out the same answer. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful, and I cannot wait to see the objects that you measure today for math. Remember, pick 5 objects around your house, use your 1-inch tool to measure all 5 objects, and then click that Google Doc, and in the table that's on the Google Doc, you can write the object that you measured and in the box next to it you can write how many inches long that object is. Okay, everybody? Good luck and happy measuring!